We're at WrestleCon, San Jose, California. It's a pleasure to have Bully Ray with us here on Fight Network and The Law. Bully, how are you enjoying WrestleCon thus far?
Everything is going very well. It's been a great event so far.
These events, I mean, being part of WrestleManias of the past, I mean, coming back year after year, you see how much it grows and just that it becomes somewhere where fans all over the world congregating. I mean, that's got to be cool, not just the fans, but also, you know, your fraternity, that this is an unofficial reunion every year.
Definitely always fun to see, the boys, fellow wrestlers, fellow, workers that you don't get to see, every day. It's the best for the fans, though, because the fans get to interact with you here. They get to, with me and Devon, it's always like a party when we do stuff like this. Totally laid back, totally chill. I mean, I think back when I was and I'm a rock and roll fan, so if I'm going to see Motley Crue or Kiss and I get the opportunity, to meet Gene Simmons or Nikki Sixx, I want to have a fun interaction with them. So that's how me and Devon kind of look at things. When fans come up to our table or anything, we want to have fun interaction with them. They can get an autograph, they can get a signature, but then they can go home and saying, hey, man, I met Bub and Devon. It was a really cool time. So that's what it's all about.
When you're making business decisions, and this was the case in WWE, it was the case with WWE, where you have to make a decision business-wise of taking yourself out of that position. I mean, how much does that play into things? Just the fraternity, the brothers in the locker room, and taking yourself away from that, and that, sometimes on a weekly basis, you are with these people on the road in the locker rooms.
This is my first time away in 20 years. I mean, since I started back, since I got my first break in ECW in 95, I've been, under contract with a company and been constantly on the road. I haven't taken any time off. I've been relatively injury-free. So this is the first time that I decided to step back on my own, and me and Devon kind of looked at each other and said, let's just take a break from doing everything, since there's really nothing left for us to do. I mean, we've kind of conquered the world of tag team wrestling, so what we're really doing is concentrating on our wrestling school. The Team 3D Academy in Kissimmee, Florida, I mean, we've been open since 2007. We're very proud of the fact that we've had students from over 30 countries, and we're a real deal wrestling school. So that's what we're really concentrating on. A lot of people asking us, are we ever going to see you here? We're going to see you there? Maybe. It depends if it's the right fit for us. If it's the right fit for us, then you might see us again.
Tell us a bit about Chris Melendez, because the world has gotten to see him since coming on to Impact Wrestling. An incredible story. Just take us back to your first interactions with Chris Melendez, and looking objectively at someone pursuing a career in this industry, if you believe that this would be viable for him.
Long story short with Chris. Chris meets Ken Anderson. Ken was working with the Wounded Warrior Project, and Chris says, hey, can you train me to wrestle? And Ken says, well, I don't have a school, but I'll take you to two guys that I know, train you the right way. And Ken told me about, Chris. And I told Chris, meet me at in New York at one of the TNA shows that we did. And I sat down with him and I listened to him, and he said, I had two dreams in life. I wanted to serve on the front line for my country, and I wanted to be a pro wrestler. And the guy seemed really, really serious. And I said, listen, you relocate to Florida on your own dime, and I'll train you for free just because of what you did for our country. And a month later, he was there. Spent about 2 years at the school, signed his first contract with TNA, and he's doing really well. And he's a huge success story. Here's a guy that, was on a tour of Afghanistan, had about, 2 weeks left there, steps on a mine, has his freaking leg blown off, and, didn't let it stop him. So, you got to give Chris a lot of credit for, continuing to follow his dreams.
Do you still have, having to kind of separate a lot of dreamers that maybe show up at the school, ones who don't fully understand what this business entails and what you are there to teach them? Is it still a divide of kind of seeking out those people and those people being weeded out?
I get a lot of, students that come into the school who, they're like, I'll ask them, what makes you think that you can become a successful pro wrestler? And they say, well, I watch every week and I really, really want to do this. That's not going to make you a successful pro wrestler. To me, you have to have a passion for this industry. You want this to be your life. It's like if you ask a little kid, what do you want to do with your life? I want to be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer. Well, when I was a little kid, I always knew I want to be a pro wrestler. So I want people who are very serious about making pro wrestling their life, and who are going to put their family first and pro wrestling second, and that's about it. Give up your life for the business, and this business will treat you really well.
as you have that time now to kind of sit back and you look at all that you have done, and it's really interesting as you look back at your career and how it's very distinct chapters where different versions of yourself, unlike the one that preceded it. Do you look at Bully Ray and that character and where it got to is kind of a really crowning achievement for you, and just what that became in TNA, completely reinventing yourself yet again?
And the funny thing about Bully Ray is it was never a goal of mine. When I was a little kid, my first memories of pro wrestling or Fuji and Saito or Jules and Jay Strongbow or Gurria and Martel, the Moondogs, the Samoans. I grew up loving and idolizing tag team wrestling because I always looked at it as, wow, if 2 guys can be entertaining in the ring, 4 guys can be doubly as entertaining. And I love tag team wrestling. And growing up, I always said to myself, wow, I would love to be involved in a tag team. I'd love to be involved in a tag team. And then when I had the opportunity in ECW and me and Devon got together, I knew that we had that chemistry, and I knew that we had something special. And Team 3D, the Dudleys back in the day were kind of looked at as a joke. The whole Dudley family was, it wasn't taken real seriously, but I knew that me and Devon had something special. And we went on to become the most successful tag team of all time. I'll never sit back here and tell you that we're the greatest tag team of all time, because I don't know what constitutes greatness in pro wrestling. What makes one guy greater than the other or one team greater than the other? I mean, it's subjective. Completely. Yeah, so are me and Devon the greatest tag team of all time? No, I'm just happy that people even, say that we are, or even mention us in the top 10. What I can tell you for sure is we're the most successful team of all time, and we've had the most longevity out of all the tag teams. So one day we kind of just sat back and we're like, getting back to your original question, like, what is there left to do as a team? There's nothing. So that's when me and Devon went our separate ways, and that's when I invented Bully Ray. But Bully Ray is really just Bubba Ray Dudley from ECW. I wasn't going to reinvent the wheel. I'm just the biggest, baddest, loudest motherfucker that's going to be in that ring, who can back himself up physically and verbally. I'll stand toe-to-toe with anybody in that ring, in that microphone. I don't think there's a person, in the ring that I can't hang with, on that microphone. So,
as you look and you bring up the verbal aspect of this industry, and I think that's something that there's a certain generation that you're a part of, that it comes from the heart. You believe what you are saying, and I think that that's such a valuable tool that so many people, such as your students and coming up through the ranks that you'll see here at conventions like this, that maybe have not quite grasped that aspect of the industry where you feel that character. And is that something you look at as something I do want to continue with, and I do want to teach these students what I learned at a part in the industry where you're not necessarily seeing that growth on the verbal end of things for some?
Being able to speak in this business is probably more important than anything else. Having a character that people can relate to, whether they want to love you, whether they want to hate you, whether they want to laugh with you, cry with you. You have to tap into people's emotions, and you have to make them want to see you do something. They have to want to see you win. They want to have to see you lose. To me, moves really don't mean anything. You got to have a skill set of moves. You have to know how to be a decent wrestler in the ring. But at the end of the day, some of the most successful guys in the history of our industry were not great wrestlers, but they were incredible talkers and great entertainers. And that's what I feel that I had morphed into as Bully Ray. I had some really, really quality matches, but I think my strengths lied in how I spoke, the promos I cut, and the passion in which I speak.
And we'll just finish up here, because I know a lot of listeners, a lot of viewers are curious just to get into your mindset about the decision to step away from TNA. Was that something that was not an easy decision to come to, something that was months in the making, and what ultimately did lead you to that decision? It
was a very easy decision. There was nothing left for me to do. And when you sit back and you go to, okay, so I was part of an extremely successful tag team in TNA, Team 3D. We got inducted into the Hall of Fame in TNA. I broke away, and as Bully Ray became what many people say was the most over heel in the entire wrestling business for a certain time. became a 2-time TNA World Heavyweight Champion, got to work with guys like Sting, and have some, phenomenal matches with him and AJ Styles, and be a part of the Aces and Eights, and married to Brooke and fighting with Hulk, and so many great things happened. And then after that, putting Dixie Carter through a table, and then the whole tag team series with the Hardys and the Wolves. That's a lot. Sure. That's a lot of stuff. And after I sat back and I looked, I go, well, how can I top all this? What can I really do that's going to be even more special? What can I do that the people are going to really want to see more than this? And I didn't see anything, so that's why I stepped away. I never want to become stale. I always want to keep moving forward. I always want to continue to entertain the fans. I look at pro wrestling and me and my act, or me and Devon's act, I look at it as the rock and roll band Kiss or Motley Crue. How are we going to top ourselves next? Because I just don't want to go out there and continue to play the same songs and do the same pyro and spit the same blood and the same crap. I want to play the greatest hits, but I want to do it in a different way. So the next time you see Team 3D or Bully Ray, you're going to see them in the way you know and love, but with the next edge, the next spin on us.
Well, we appreciate it very much. And for those out there, where can they get information on the school if someone out there maybe is watching this and they are an aspiring wrestler?
If you are an aspiring wrestler and you are serious about pro wrestling, you can go to team3dacademy.com. You can find us on Facebook at Team 3D Academy. We're on Instagram at Team 3D Academy. Just look up Team 3D Academy and you're gonna find us. And like I said, proud to have trained students from over 30 countries, and have many students have gone into either WWE Developmental or TNA or Ring of Honor or Japan, and just real happy that we have a quality wrestling school.
Awesome. Pleasure's been all mine. I thank you so much for the time.
Thank you.
Man. Appreciate it.